Good evening, world. Mountain Man G here, getting ready to make some homemade pizza from scratch. Starting with the dough, moving on through to the toppings. We're going to go ahead and skip out on making the marinara. I've done that in advance, but if you want to see how it's done, leave me a comment below. For now, let's begin. Up first, we have a mixture of one package of Fleischmann's pizza crust yeast, half a cup of water, half a cup of all-purpose flour, and 3 tablespoons of sugar. I've allowed that to sit together for about, half hour. Allows that yeast to bloom out and get nice and foamy, as you can see here. The flour and sugar feed the yeast and cause it to kind of go into overdrive and get it ready for our pizza dough. Into our mixer with a bread hook, we're going to add 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, and 4 halves of all-purpose flour. So if you weren't doing the math there, that is actually just 2 cups. We're going to go ahead and add to that our yeast mixture. And then off camera, I'm going to go ahead and add another cup of water, and I'm going to scrape the rest of this yeast into the bowl. I've added that water, and to that, I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 teaspoons of large, coarse, kosher salt. This large grain salt is going to dissolve nice and slowly and basically season our dough without killing the yeast. It's going to dissolve nice and slowly. We're going to go ahead and close that with our bread hook, and we're going to let it mix together and knead itself for 15 to 20 minutes. We'll check back at that time. Our dough has been in the mixer now for about 15 minutes. So I went ahead and added about 3/4 to 1/4 of a cup. It was still a little on the wet side when I added my flour. What you're looking for is a relatively dry but still kind of moist texture that really stretches as you pull off the hook. If you're making a puddle or it's a little wet, feel free to add a little extra flour. To this, we're going to add just under 1/4 of a cup of oil, and we're going to allow that to mix for another 5 minutes to fully integrate that oil. Our dough has been kneading for about 5-6 minutes since we added the oil. We're going to go ahead and pull this off the hook, and they make a nice round ball, and cover it with an oiled plastic and allow it to sit for 30 minutes to rise. Dough has been rising for about half hour, 45 minutes or so now, and as you can see, it's just over doubled in volume. I'm going to go ahead and pull this plastic off, making sure you don't stick it together, because we're going to reuse that here in just a minute. Give it a solid push to relieve that carbon dioxide, sorry. Complete and total brain fart there. I'll fold this over. Give it a nice roll. We're going to cover it back over and let it keep going. As you can see, our dough has risen a second time and has gotten real big. I let this go a bit longer than I should have, but we're sitting right around an hour mark after our second punch. We're going to go ahead and roll this on, punch this a second time and roll it onto the counter. pizza has come out of the oven at the 12-minute mark. As you can see, the crust is a nice golden brown. The cheese on top has just started to brown. I did add a little extra on top after I cut the camera. I like my salami crispy, but not completely and totally toasty, so we wanted to give it a little bit of protection. We're going to go ahead and garnish this with some fresh chopped basil. Slice her up and call her good, because you know it is dinner time. For now, though, it has been Mountain Man G making some homemade pizza to include the dough. If you've liked what you've seen, please hit like. Follow us on Instagram at Mountain Man G, Facebook, or YouTube, depending on where you've seen this video, at the same handle. For now, signing off, Mountain Man G.